Alright, game console's done. Let's go ahead and turn it on. Alright, so first thing to note is there are two ways to power this. What I've been doing primarily is working over USB-C just because I don't want to have to charge and discharge batteries continuously. That'd be annoying. So speaking of the batteries, this is the UPS device on the inside right here. This is your on and off switch. You can charge it over that port right there. And from what I've seen is you get approximately 3 hours on everything running full power. So that means the fan is on, the LCD is at 100%, pygame is running in the background, or in the foreground actually, and there's audio playing. So everything that could be consuming power was running, and I got about 3 hours out of that. What it takes is two 18650 batteries right here in the back. You can swap these out, however, if you do so, there's a little button on the inside of the UPS. You got to press one time to reset something about that device. I unsoldered it and brought it out to this button right here. So you just got to press that one time if you ever do swap out those batteries. What else? So on top here, fan. I talked about the fan. You've got control over that with this little switch right here. Maybe you can hear it, maybe you can't. That's the fan right there. So that goes on and off. You have two external USB ports. And this is a Bluetooth keyboard. This was being used as like a USB Wi-Fi dongle, which I no longer need because I now have a Raspberry Pi 4 instead of the Banana Pi M5, which does not have a native wireless chip in there. What else? Here we got access to our SD card. Initially I tried to install RetroPie as an application, or as, software. That did not work out, and so I was forced to install that to an SD card, which I already took out actually. But this SD card kind of slides in right here, and then it's secured with this piece, which actually also acts as like a tool to remove, well, it's not really in focus, to remove the SD card right there, when it's turned off, of course. So that's it for the right side. Left side, this will be used to play the game that I am writing. So right now all it does is it pulls up, press that one time, and it pulls up this thing right here, which is just an example script to kind of showcase the different buttons. So we can press all of them, ensure everything's mapped out as expected, and then up, down, left, and right. You can also see, I put a cursor on there just so you kind of see how it moves. I was also testing out the acceleration, so you also see the longer it is in one position, the faster it moves across the map, or what will be the map. Right now it's just a blank screen, but you get the idea. And then just kill it, you can do the same thing, press that same button one time. You might have seen it flash 3 times red, which, speaking of the bottom here, there are 4 LEDs right here, 2 blue, 1 green, 1 red. That's just used for a variety of status lights, so I know what's happening. Primarily with, or actually only with, the script monitoring these 4 buttons. So I already talked about the Moldark button. Media, what that does is that browses a local local SD card connected over one of the USB ports. And so I've just got a variety of, TV shows and movies that I've ripped from, just years and years ago. So you can play that. And then you have, if it does not start in full screen, you can press select. You can pause and play it with start, and then close it out with X. And then it brings you back to the main screen. You can close that out again with just pressing that same button. You might have seen that flash red, like so. The third one turns that wireless, or the wireless interface up or down. Not much to it. Not very exciting. Oh, and then the last one is a clean shutdown button. So if you don't want to just, flip the switch, which you shouldn't be doing anyway, but it just performs a nice shutdown for you. What else we talked about? Top side. Oh yeah. So one more thing for the back. Talked about the fan and the battery pack. We also have this little thing that barely sticks out, barely. That's used to adjust the screen brightness. So it's on like a little lever, and there's a spring, and it's hitting a button on the LCD, turning that brightness up and down. So I'll keep it at 4. Okay, bottom here. We've got, I already talked about that one for the UPS, or resetting the UPS device. 4 LEDs. We've got 2 options for audio output. The first of which are the 2 speakers, of course. That's the primary, of course. Second is you can push those 2 channels to the audio jack right here. And so this is a 3-position double pull, double throw switch. It's taking in those 2 channels from the onboard Raspberry Pi stereo jack, and then either pushes those 2 channels to an amplifier for the speakers out this way, or to the external audio jack here. And then before all that actually is a potentiometer, which is this gear which spins, and that's your volume control. So yeah, pretty neat, I'd say. Took a very long time to make, but it works, finally. Alright, in total there are over 100 screws used in this entire case. To get to the insides though, all you gotta take out are 15 screws. So, go ahead and do that. Alright, so just like that, you can take these, or disassemble this whole thing without needing to solder and unsolder stuff. It's all just right there, and then it just plugs in using those pins I was talking about before, if you've seen previous videos, and then plugs in right here. Alright, so what is cool about how this whole thing comes together, right, is that I can actually swap out this whole thing for a regular D-pad. And so, because there are enough pins over here, there are 12 in total, 2 used for speakers, and then 5 are each used for the D-pad, and 5 for the 2-axis analog joystick. I can actually just swap these right out. And so, that's very nice having that for the RetroPie, especially because just handling those button inputs all in the same USB joystick is much easier than trying to configure the joystick, or the USB joypad, if you want to call it that, and then the analog 2-axis joystick. So, kind of a cool thing. This thing really just plugs right in, right on top like so. So, yeah, kind of cool. Alright, and then the centerpiece, once you have the 2 sides taken off, gotta remove the power for the LCD with this, and then the HDMI input, or the HDMI cable. Like so. And then this whole thing actually just lifts straight off. So, that's what the back of this looks like. You can see all the points where it screws in there, and then the bottom 3 times. Yeah, so it really just falls on place. Now for the inside, I'm not going to cover this in detail. If you want to know how it works, there's other videos. You can go to my website. I've already broken down all of the hardware assembly and the software configuration for all this stuff. But you've got your UPS device right here that connects directly to your Pi board using these 16 gauge wires. You can see a little bit thicker ones. The rest of these are all your 22 or 30 gauge, depending on what it's being used for. I think some of the speaker ones and the power lines are some of the little bit lower gauge, and then all these button input ones are all 30 gauge. You got your analog to digital converter down here. You can see that. And actually how this, so when it first starts that program I was talking about, and it's trying to read both of these, what it does is it reads the input from where it suspects this thing would be plugged into, and if it gets readings, at somewhere around 512. That is the neutral state when this is plugged in, because this is actually a potentiometer for both the change in X and change in Y. And so here it'd be over at 0, over here it'd be at over 1,000. And so if this is not plugged in and only the D-pad is plugged in, it'll get readings of 0. If this is plugged in and it's just left as is for like 2 seconds, then it'll get those X and Y readings of 512, approximately. I gave it like a 30-point buffer, but yes. So before, I also had that Banana Pi M5 here. I did have to buy a, what is that? It's a mini HDMI adapter, just so this whole thing would work. And then, yeah, the audio I was talking about. So here we are. This is the ground going straight to that audio amplifier. You can't see it because of the shadows, but right inside there, that audio amplifier. Left and right channels, first going into your potentiometer, which is this thing. Here's that gear I was talking about. You can see how that spins, like so. The outputs, so it comes in on pins 1, outputs on pins 2, goes into the center pins here for the switch. Your mute option is center, speaker is right, and then left to go straight to your audio jack, which is that thing. So, again, if you want to have or hear more about this, you can go to you can look at other videos and do all that, just because I've already covered it in depth. I'm not going to do it again now. But, yeah. Kind of see how this thing works now. There's a little bit of a track on the inside, and then see, this thing is looser than I want it to be, but if it's not, then it gets stuck. So that's kind of how that works. Push in, push out, the exact same motion.